What the heck? Hello, folks. This is Old Truth Speaker again, coming to you with some more disturbing news. I did a video like this a good while back. It's Jews call African Americans liquid money. And someone recently had brought up the same topic. And this is more or less, this isn't part two, although the subject is related. But this is to go deeper in depth, an in-depth view of African American lifestyle, especially their monetary practices from the Jewish standpoint. And it's rather disturbing considering 400 years of butchering and raping and kidnapping and brought here. You have to remember that our ancestors worked 16 and 17 hours a day, and like the great Frederick Douglass, one of the first civil rights activists, said when he was enslaved as a little boy, he had to fight the dog for molded and smelly food. And bless God, he finally managed to escape and go back to go to New York. The life of slaves, well, remember, it wasn't slavery, it was chattel slavery. That's entirely something different. That's more, it's really, well, we'll get to that later. But the point I want to make to you right now is I'm going to read this. Excerpts from an interview with a Jewish leader about blacks. Jewish leader. The only aspect blacks understand is consumption. Blacks don't understand the importance of building wealth. It's been often said that blacks have $1.2 trillion of spending money. That's actually an insult. What it means is that they know our spending practices, that we produce nothing. All we do is just buy rims for $2,000 rims for $500 cars, and that we're just consumers. All we do is just spend up with money with the enemies of black people, with people who have did us more harm than good. But let me give you some more excerpts. The fundamental rule is to keep your money within your racial group. We build Jewish businesses, hire Jewish, buy Jewish, and spend Jewish. We've been telling you all along that Jews, their money stays in their community 18 times before it goes out of their community. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. That's why they were able to hire their own people. There's no need. I'm not talking about blaming this one and that one. Now it's time for us to step up and take responsibility for our own actions. If we don't move now, like Steve Harvey said, and I'm no talking about him, but this time I agree with what he says. We're in terrible trouble. Do you understand me? We're murdering each other at an alarming rate. Just this past weekend, Chicago had three deaths and 11 shootings, and the weekend isn't even over. Or so far, it's almost 300 that was wounded. It's just, and the year before that, it was 600 and something, and the year before that, 716. It's ridiculous. Let me just keep on going. There is nothing wrong with that, but it is basic rule blacks cannot comprehend and follow. They're talking about your intellectuality. That's an insult. They're telling you that we're not even intelligent enough. A lot of us aren't even intelligent enough to start our own businesses. And when we do, we go to our enemies. Yesterday, I had to buy something, and I just passed an Asian nail shop. It was about 10 chairs, and 9 of them in there, you guessed it, were black women. That tells you everything what you need to know. Let's go ahead. Let's go on. Listen to this. He kills his fellow blacks daily instead of waiting to see his fellow blacks do well. 93% of blacks killed in America are killed by other blacks. Do you understand that? That's horrible for every race. That's horrible for every race on earth to know that. Do you understand? These are the Jews talking. Why don't you ask them who owned the slave ships that brought us here? But nevertheless, this is how bad things get when we lack the love and respect for others that every other race except us have. Do you understand that how horrible that is? And believe me, nobody in Washington has our back. You heard it? Has our back. Nobody cares about it. Do you understand? If we don't respect ourselves, nobody else is going to respect us. We have to put God first, ask for direction, and unite. If we aren't going to unite, forget it. We're supposed to make sure our own children are educated. And we have to model them and teach them to be entrepreneurs, not to go out and work for another race of people that want to destroy you. We're not even finished. Wait a minute, let me finish. He kills his fellow blacks, Dale. We already know that. Listen at this. I've been saying this over and over for years. Their leaders steal from their people and send the money back to their colonial masters. These are the Jews talking. Can you believe that? Back to their colonial masters, from whom they borrow the same money from. Do you understand that? What they're saying is that we are actually a liability instead of an asset. But one point where we are an asset, we spend $1.2 trillion every ethnic and race group in America except our own people. That's why nobody of the race on earth can understand. That is not God's will. That the devil is a liar. That is not God's will. Every successful black wants to spend his money in the country of his colonial masters. You see that? You see? Remember, there's a difference between a house Negro and a field Negro. We sick, massa? We sick? Don't you think it's a little strange? Look at your Al Sharptons. Look at your... Never mind. Never mind. Every... They go on holidays abroad, buy houses abroad, schools abroad, etc. Instead of spending this money in their own country to benefit their own people. This is the recent update. This is the recent interview from the Jewish leaders on African Americans. That is literally embarrassing. A nation of consumers. This is what Yvette Carnell has been saying all the time. The statistics show that the Jews, listen at this, the Jews' money exchanged hands 18 times. 18 times it circles in their community before leaving its community. While for blacks, it is probably a maximum of one. It is a maximum of once or even zero. That's a disgrace to make. I don't care what you make, 200 or 3,000. Well, I'm just saying, none of this money stays in our community. None. I've walked past black businesses and I've seen cars, and I know people went 20 and 30 miles an hour, miles away to spend their money with Asians or Arabs. People who actually think that we're animals. Look, all they do is kill and butcher and rape one another. All they do is go to prison and give each other AIDS. That's a disgrace. This is what people are saying about us. Do you understand this? Somebody's going to pay for this. Who? I'm not talking about when we were kidnapped from Africa and brought it. We all know that. I'm talking about now it's time for us to take responsibility, or we're going to perish. Do you know that? At the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865, when Lincoln freed the slaves, you had 4 million slaves. Only about 250 or 300,000 were free. Do you understand that? You get where I'm going with this? Do you know how many own their own businesses? Roughly about 150,000. Do you know that most most lynchings, most of the blacks that were lynched, I said it 3 or 4 times, were small business owners. Strange, isn't it? You ever heard of Black Wall Street? The creme de la creme of black society, a prosperous community that was attacked from the air like we were the Nazis. If we don't start respecting and loving one another like God like the good Lord commanded, you can forget uniting and doing anything else. That says it all right there. Do you understand how dangerous this is? Only 6% of blacks, only 6% of black money goes back into their community. This is why Jews are at the top and blacks are at the bottom of every ladder of society, from academics or intellectually to monetary. We don't own anything. Instead of buying Louis Vuittons, Hermes, expensive cars, shoes and houses and dresses, etc., blacks could industrialize Africa, build banks, and get rid of colonial institutions by putting them out of business. Why do you think they're building for-profit prisons? They said they were going to each state, something Obama was doing away with. They're going to each state and tell them they didn't have to go to the government or anything. We could go to each state. We'll put up as many prisons as you need. You know what they said? Keep them 98% full. And you already know who's going to. Most blacks and then Hispanics, especially blacks. And the CBC, forget about them. They're about as worthless. They're about as trustworthy. I'll put it this way. Most politicians, black or white, is about as full of crap as a constipated elephant, especially liberals. I don't trust. I'm not a Democrat or Republican, but liberals have done more damage to the black community. Put that book, put that gun down and pick you up a book and read. But first read the Bible. We need prayer like never before. Lord, help us. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Do you see what all these people are saying about us? It's a disgrace. We've been saying it all for years. Now it's worse. You know what a House Negros, you see what Ben Carson did? You know, the one over HUD? You see what he did? He took the discrimination, like he took that totally out of the clause. The thing that they were marching for in the 50s and the 60s, he just did away with it. A black guy. We sick, master? We sick? No, the ball is in our court. Let me tell you what another thing a person said. A funeral director said. He said, I'm tired of seeing people like Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, and these gangster rappers who have bodyguards influence our young black men to go down there and shoot each other down in the street. When the medical examiner gets you, he chops you to pieces and take all your private parts out of your guts and your internal organs out and sells them. And by the time your mother get to your mother, because 73% of all blacks is born in a single parent home, by the time you get to the funeral home, your mother, who knows nothing about what they did to you. See, everybody benefit from the death of blacks. Lord, help us. We need a shaking up, praise God. We also need a dose of some common sense. We were the #1 minority group. Now we're sliding into third place. Nobody cares anything about us. Why should they if we don't care about ourselves? Children are being shot down. Do you know? Do you know what's going to come next? You think martial law in some of these black communities is too far? No, but everything he said, this is what Jewish leaders think. Leave a, what do you think? Leave a comment.